Hello and welcome back to Seagulls Central. Thank you very, very much for clicking on this video and returning to my channel. As I always say, if you're new here, thank you very much for coming along for your first video. And if you've been here before, welcome back to the fastest growing Brighton fan community out there on social media. 2,600 of us now are subscribed to the channel, so thank you very much if you are one of them. If you are not and you find yourself coming back to this channel regularly, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get in the likes, get in the comments. It really, really helps me grow out this channel. I appreciate you. What I want to do today is reflect on Charalampos Kostoulas and Stefanos Tzimas, who today, or when this video is going out, yesterday, played another game for the under-21s. They played significant minutes. We saw a lot more of them. The game was live streamed. We were able to watch them. We were able to watch every single action that both of them made in this game. And it's helped to paint a bit of a bigger picture around what we can expect from them. Obviously, we've seen both of them. We saw Seamass, we saw Costulas, both in that Oxford United game in the Carabao Cup. Obviously, Seamass a little bit longer on the pitch, having a bit more of an impact in terms of scoring goals. But we did see both of them. We saw them both again today, both from the start. Okay, it's not Premier League level. Okay, it's not necessarily transferable. But what it is, to be fair, it's against it's against professional footballers. Okay, at this point they're not employed. They're part of the PFA 11. This is who the Brighton under-21s played. They played a PFA team of free agents that the Professional Footballers Association put on. But these guys, they're adults, they're men's football. Some of them are units, some of them have played in the Premier League, in the Championship, across the EFL, in the lower leagues as well. So these are proper English footballers. They understand the English game, and it's a good introduction for Seamass and Costulas to really kind of, get used to the game, get used to the physicality. Obviously, they're playing with youngsters in the Brighton side, but I think it's a nice little opportunity, for them to get a few more minutes and we'll get into it. I think it was a very impressive game, particularly for Stefanos Tzimas. Look, he scored 2 goals, and, in terms of the two of them, I'll be honest, I think he's the one who looks a little bit further ahead out of him and Costulas. I think Costulas looked pretty decent. What I will say is I think Costulas maybe looked a little bit more... He looked a little bit like he needed more time to adjust to the pace, to the intensity of either English football or generally just like the pace of a football match, because of the fact he's been out injured for so long. I felt that Costulas' performance, whilst it was... what the positives, what I liked about it was very attacking. It was very forward-thinking. It was front-facing. He'd receive the ball and he'd want to run at place. He'd receive the ball and he'd want to pass it forwards. He'd like having a shot. Very good at linking up with players. I can see when he's fully fit, when he's fully adapted to the league, when he kind of understands how to play best in an English football team against English football defenders and the pace and intensity of it. You can tell he's going to be a brilliant player. You can tell he's got such a talent. I think what he looked like in this game was a player who was a little bit lightweight, a player who was maybe getting nudged off the ball a little bit too easily, a player who was maybe taking a little bit too long to kind of undergo each action. He'd kind of receive the ball, think he'd had time for an extra touch. Then he'd have some massive 6'2" unit, coming in from their defence, who's obviously played professional football in England their whole life, and they kind of swoop him out of the way. And I think it seemed like it took him a little bit longer to get up to speed. That would be my only criticism of him. I think in terms of the positive actions that he did do, I thought what you can see there is a very direct player. I think what he probably looks like to me is maybe a little bit more of a mature, or maybe a more sensible kind of player in the Julio Enciso role. I think Julio Enciso had that similar ability of being quite raw, loving a shot, wanting to get forward, wanting to create. Not necessarily an out-and-out striker, but someone who'd sit behind, can play off the left centrally, can play off the right, can support a striker, an attacking midfielder, and really wanted it to get in and amongst it and get in the goals. And you could see that Costulas linking up really well, really nicely with Seamass. You could see them, they were looking out for each other quite a bit. I thought that was quite nice. So I think there's definitely promise there. I think obviously for Costulas, I think it is about just getting up to speed. And look, he's been injured for quite a while. I think it was in March or April that he got his injury, missed kind of most of the end of the season with Olympiacos. We've not seen him at all in pre-season. We signed him essentially as an injured player. We've only 20 minutes, 15 minutes against Oxford United. He didn't play the full 90 against the PFA 11 today, but we're seeing a player who's getting used to that. I think, on the contrast, I think Seamass is probably a player who's ready to come into the side in the next few weeks. I think is a player who, if I had my way, I think you should really be seeing him involved in the first team in the next 2 weeks. Maybe after the international break, he will be on the bench against Bournemouth, and he will be in with a chance of coming on and getting minutes. I think it seems like he's built his fitness up. I think, these last few weeks he hasn't been available because he's obviously not been fit himself as well. But also, they say it's about acclimatising. I think mainly it's about acclimatising fitness-wise for Seamass, getting him to a point where he's ready to play a professional football match at 90 minutes at academy level or in a Carabao Cup level, so that then when he comes onto the Premier League, he can do 20 minutes at really high intensity. So I think out of the two of them, Seamass certainly looks like, and I'll get on to Seamass in a sec, certainly looked like the player who kind of looked a little bit more ready. I think with Kostoulas, I'd be interested to see what the club do in the next few weeks. Well, obviously, he's in and around the first team now. He's not going to be sent out on loan or anything. It's too late for that kind of thing. But I wonder what the club's assessment will be, say, in the next 2 months' time. Say Seamass, which it looks like might be able to kind of break into the fringes of the team, becoming a kind of secondary striker by maybe October time. Maybe even better than that, who knows? I just from what I saw today, it felt like maybe Kostoulas is a little bit further behind in his journey, chiefly in terms of fitness, but also just in terms of sharpness. So I wonder whether a loan, I wouldn't necessarily, in the kind of medium term, if we're just talking across this season, I actually wouldn't necessarily rule out a loan for Kostoulas. I think, in January, we maybe reassess things, see how we're looking, and maybe that would be a situation. I also, to be fair, wouldn't put it past him to just break into the side and kind of be able to get Premier League minutes. If we move on to Seamass, I think his was a performance where it looked a lot more ready. It looked maybe a little bit more rounded. He scored 2 goals. His first one, a brilliant header from a corner. His second one, a penalty. And I've seen a lot of tweets around it, seen a lot of conversation around his performance, people describing him as robotic, and I think that is quite a good description. He seems just lethal. When he gets a chance, every action he does, and I think I said this after the Oxford game, every action he does is so clean, it's so crisp. It feels very thought through. It feels like he's got a bit more time than everyone else. So, for example, the first goal he scored, it was like 3-4 minutes in from a corner. Brighton won a corner. And he's up against some absolute man mountains in the PFA 11. The ball comes in from the box on the right-hand side. It's whipped in. He heads it, rises above everyone. He's got a guy jumping up sort of with him, trying to match him. He jumps up way higher than him, gets his head on it, beats into the header, and places it's a cushioned header into the top left corner, kind of loops over the goalkeeper, who kind of, can't really get to it because it's kind of looping. And it's a perfect header, really nice, clean action. And it's a really, really smart finish. Later on in the game, you see him, he's constantly looking for those runs in behind. Every single time the ball gets to an attacking midfielder, bang, he's on the shoulder, making a run, getting in behind. So he's a player who chances are always going to drop to because his movement is unbelievable. Like, his attacking movement is so he's always looking to get into that space. And then when he gets into that space, his movements are often very clean. So there was a really good opportunity where he got in behind with his left foot. And okay, he didn't actually finish this one, but the strike, there was no scuffing of the strike. It was marginally wide. It was a really sweet strike that he'd kind of received on his weak foot and, just went beyond the goalkeeper. I like the way as well he kind of drops deep, gets involved in the play. There was a moment when Brighton were building out from the back with the 2 centre-halves into central midfielders. He does that kind of Kane thing that Kane does, where Kane comes deep into the kind of defensive midfielder role, receives it, pops it out to the right back, and then he'll then burst up the pitch, trying to get back into his striker position as the right back kind of bombs on and gets into the attack. So he looks very rounded. He looks like he's got a lovely touch. He can hold it up. When he's coming deep, he's resisting the pressure from players behind him. The penalty was brilliant. The penalty he scored in the second half. Perfect Panenka finish. An Albion player brought down to the box. Seamass is up for taking it. He takes it. And the keeper dives to his right-hand side, to Seamass' left-hand side. and Seamass just dinks it down the middle. He kind of waits to see what the goalkeeper's going to do, and he just dinks it straight down. And it was a lovely finish, a really calm finish. And I think, I understand why people are kind of using that phrase about being a robot, because I think it's a perfect description, very clean actions. Everything just seems quite perfect in his movements. And, there were a few moments where I think some of the centre halves, naturally kind of did outmuscle him, did outpace him a little bit. I think he also got a bit of a reality check sometimes coming against kind of those defenders. But let's make no mistake, he's played in a good league in Germany. He's obviously played in Greece as well against... It's not like he's only played junior football. He's played proper men's senior football at a very decent level. Both of these guys, Europa League football, Conference League football, European football in their domestic leagues, in different leagues as well. So I don't think necessarily coming up against, massive units of defenders is going to be a massive problem. I think it's more the ruthlessness and the pace of the Premier League. We spoke about it loads as Brighton fans, as I've said before. When we got promoted to the Premier League, it's that recognition as soon as you're watching it. When you're physically just watching in the crowd, it's, oh my God, the pace is insane. These guys have no time. And imagine if you're playing it must just feel like 100 miles an hour quicker than even that. So I think that's really going to be the kind of test for both of them. My prediction would be that we'll probably see Seamass on the bench for the Bournemouth game. I'd be very shocked if he wasn't involved in that game. Kostoulas, I think, will probably be given a little bit more of a run out in the under-21s would be my prediction. I wouldn't put it past Hurzeler putting him in the squad for the Bournemouth game, but I do suspect we probably will see Seamass on the bench, being involved in the kind of last 20 minutes. I think he probably could have done that against Man City after the good performance he put in, obviously with those brilliant goals. Again, very clinical, robotic, perfect strikes against Oxford United in the Cup. I think we'll probably see an opportunity for him to come on in the last 20 minutes. I would have liked to have seen against Man City, but I think he's certainly shown he is ready now, and I think he's a player who looks like he will just finish a lot of chances, and I think it could be very, very useful to have that option. It seems like, he can take a half chance and make it into a proper full-blown goal-scoring opportunity just through his quality and just through his eye for goal and just through his sharpness and cleanness with the way he plays. So I think it's very, very exciting. Let me know what you think. What would you do in terms of the Bournemouth game? Would you play both of them? Would you start any of them? Would you start Seamass? I know we had a conversation before the City game after the Oxford United game and the goals he scored, whether you'd start Seamass for the City game. What would you do? Would you think either of them have staked a claim to get in the squad? Surely one of them's at least got to get in the squad. You'd presume Stefan or Seamass. But let me know what you think. Did you see any of the game when it was being live streamed? What were your assessments on both of them? I think they both looked very good, both looked very promising in different ways. Kostoulas a little bit more raw and just ready to attack and take players on. Seamass a bit more sharp and clean and kind of wanting to get in behind and just score goals and link up play a little bit more. Two really exciting players and two players we're absolutely keeping an eye on over these next few weeks. So yeah, let me know in the comments. As always, if you've got this far in the video and you've enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video, hit the like button, get in the comments and let me know what you think of their performances so far and whether you think either of them have got a chance in the Bournemouth game. I will see you on the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, up the Albion.